7 a.m. in the morning. Junior technician Robert Benchler Sr. arrives for work at the largest power plant on the eastern seaboard. He sits at his desk. It's a usual morning for Benchler, but something very unusual is about to happen. Disaster. He quickly discovers the plant is minutes away from a catastrophic explosion. Almost simultaneously, he hears a warning chime from his cell phone. 5% battery. Benchler needs to use his phone to confirm his dinner reservations for that evening, an important dinner with a woman he needs to sleep with. Without his phone, he is doomed. It looks like a meltdown is just seconds away. Make that 2 meltdowns, a nuclear one and a personal one. Benchler's phone goes black. His face goes white. His underwear goes brown. What will happen next? To the power plant, to the eastern seaboard, to his dinner plans, to his sex.
The answer is fascinating. The sun, the waves, the wind, even the sun-drenched people. Everything here moves, flows, changes. Everything here is powered by something, a force so invisible it is unseen to the naked eye. This cosmic masseuse pushes and pulls the very fabric of the universe, kneading out any knots and wrinkles in
Energy is a camouflage force that controls everything we've ever known and everything we shall never have not known. Energy is essentially invisible. It cannot be seen, but it can often be felt, sometimes be smelled, and occasionally be tasted. Energy appears in many forms, and it can be transformed into many different shapes, much like a ball of clay or a stripper. Electricity, water, food, radioactivity, rodeoactivity, roller coasters, gravity, immigrants, and the sun. Each of these is an example of something that can not only kill a person, but can also power one. And energy has been doing both of those things to man since the dawn of civilization. And for centuries, man has investigated every corner of his planet to find ways to harness the power of its energy. This quest began long ago, in the ancient world, in a time before tables. The ancient Greeks worshipped powerful Roman gods like Medusa and Caesar, and these gods manifested their awesome energy in the form of lightning. None more powerful than Jesus, the Roman Greek god of holding lightning. And man, in his quest to become powerful like the gods he worshipped, would often try to capture this lightning for himself.
We now know that early man would stand on a mountaintop during thunderstorms, mouth open wide in an attempt to eat the lightning that they believed the gods were feeding them. They thought this would work. Of course, many times it didn't work, and the results were death or embarrassment, or one followed by the other.
People have this theory that if you walk outside, you might just randomly get struck by lightning. But the thing is, it's not as random as you think. It takes a very magnetic kind of being to pull the light from the sky, and that's what's actually going on.
And in early cultures, these magnetic people who could pull lightning from the sky became known as wizards and witches. And then it was during the Renaissance that English medieval scientists began the practice of tying these wizards and witches, often the most attractive or magnetic women in each village, to a post in the center of town to attract lightning. And this led to many women being, quote, burned at the stake.
Well, if you shine a light on a magnet, the magnet would be magnetized, and so when you stick it on a refrigerator, the refrigerator would light up.
But these human magnets, when struck by lightning, would not light up a refrigerator, but instead an entire town square for up to 3 or 4 hours per witch. And while this practice did provide some energy and warmth for local municipalities, it was still not enough. The result was only a small amount of usable energy and a large amount of dead witches and wizards. But then, a man named Benjamin Jefferson Franklin came along and changed everything. Before becoming the 7th president of the United States, Jefferson Franklin was elected U.S. ambassador to China. On a trip to that nation's capital, Tokyo City, Jefferson Franklin bought himself a kite. The kite was a new device that the Chinese president Genghis Khan had recently invented as a way to hunt birds. Jefferson Franklin brought his kite back to America, and then one summer night, after a long day of working on a new draft of the USS Constitution, Jefferson Franklin decided to hunt some birds with his kite and his child assistant. But then something curious happened. A thunderstorm erupted, and suddenly a bolt of lightning struck his kite, the force of which cracked his glasses. And in that moment, Franklin not only invented bifocals, he also invented something we call electricity. And this sparked a revolution. Soon, kites flew over every house in the colonies. For the first time, people could use electricity to power their homes. Of course, it was limited. It would power the house, but the only problem was that it only worked for a short time. Still, the world was changed forever. In fact, today we still use kites to get electricity. Giant kites, which float in space high above the Earth. We call these giant kites satellites, and they draw their energy from the very same lightning that Jefferson Franklin first harnessed with his small Chinese kite. How do these satellites work? Well, the satellite uses giant magnets, each as attractive as 10 medieval witches, to attract lightning from the constant storms that are happening in the space wind above the Earth. But instead of illuminating a simple town square, the satellites beam the energy down to a receiver on the ground, and the energy from the lightning is then distributed to power needy homes everywhere. Once we had discovered that lightning could provide us with so much energy, it didn't take long to crack the mystery of the greatest source of lightning, something called the sun. The sun, which is the planet located at the center of our solar system, is similar to Earth, but it is much larger, and it is always on fire. And this fire is caused by constant lightning strikes that cover its surface. As a result, it is very bright and very powerful.
If you look into the sun for 1-2 minutes, your eyes will magnify that light and the back of your brain will catch fire.
This sun energy that could potentially burn a human brain is the same energy that constantly seeps into the Earth and could potentially cause the planet to explode someday. And what do we call this potential energy? Potential energy.
The difference between kinetic and potential energy is that kinetic energy can be likened to a belly dancer. I once was approached by this belly dancer at an anniversary party. It was sort of a Greek-themed thing years ago, and she just had this look in her eyes, sort of the undulations and her movements was very, it sort of drew me in, I guess, in a way. I felt like she was dancing just for me, really, even though it was a huge room. And potential energy is, I guess that was more like my energy, where I was, I don't know, thinking about all the possibilities, the potentials that it could exist with this woman if things were different, but it wasn't to be.
And so we would attempt to unleash the Earth's awesome potential energy, coaxing the precious stored lightning out of this flirtatious illuminated belly dancer.
And this is where the story gets fascinating.
Next time on our fascinating planet.
Of course, we know reflection is when light bounces off a surface. Refraction is when light is bent by passing through a medium of differing density. Then there's reflection, which isn't a word, but is, of course, fun to say. Like most things in science, we've come up with the word and are waiting to discover if there is a phenomenon to fulfill it.
Last time on our fascinating planet, lightning struck man, and a man struck lightning with a kite. Energy changed the face of the earth, while man faced the change of the earth, all under a bright, burning planet in the sky called the sun, which ultimately brought mankind face to face with his own potential to burn another planet, one we call the Earth.
Perhaps there is no brighter force in the known universe than light. This bewitching, scintillating enigma illuminates every corner of the known cosmos. But what is light? Well, it's all around us, like air or sexual tension, an inextricable part of everything we do and have and are and see.
And we know it is our greatest form of energy. To understand what light is, we must look into it, literally, to see what it is made of. Of course, this is difficult, because when you look directly at light, much like a dog or a common criminal, it is liable to hurt you. But once scientists were able to look into light using a combination of powerful telescopes and even more powerful sunglasses, we discovered a fascinating world within this shining form of energy.
Energy comes in many forms, or as we like to call it, waves. The smallest waves are, of course, microwaves, which are made of micros.
And these micros, or atoms as they are sometimes called, are the building blocks of light. So what exactly are these atoms? Well, an atom is essentially a microscopic atmosphere of electrically charged storm clouds, and at its very center lies a tiny earthlet. The clouds rotate around the earthlet and bombard it constantly with minuscule lightning bolts. These tiny storms are what give the atom energy, and also make it glow. And so today we know that since all objects contain atoms, all objects contain light. Trees, cars, people, and even water. In fact, light can even be found in something as simple as a potato.
We're all familiar with the science fair experiment where a kid powers a clock with a potato. But we don't really have a grasp on how much energy there is inside of a potato. I mean, think about it. A potato is powered by what? Potato atoms, or potatoms, which are some of the strongest atoms there are.
Once micros were discovered, scientists began to think about how to unleash all of the pre-captured potential energy from the objects around us. The problem was to find a way of extracting the micros from those objects. And the solution would come from a nightclub singer turned inventor named Thomas Jefferson Edison. Edison, having recently invented the record player to help him practice his singing at home, was working on a patent for a glass listening helmet to go with his new player. One day, when he accidentally made one of his glass helmets too small, Edison had a breakthrough. He thought that maybe if he put one of the large hoop earrings from his stage costume upside down into the small glass helmet and hooked up wires to the earring, it might create a small lightning storm inside the glass helmet, which would cause the micros in the upside down earring to release light. And that's exactly what happened. And so the light bulb was born, and with it, a whole new era of energy began. Light was used to power lamps, trains, homes, and wars. And it was even used to save lives. But light,
Like any good parent, it can just as easily extinguish the life it gives.
and so, lying deep within the positive energy of light's illuminated micros, there was a negative, dark energy waiting to be released.
Light is very dangerous if you wait long enough. A light will kill you.
Unsatisfied with the energy they'd harnessed from atoms, power-greedy scientists decided to split open one of these atoms to extract all of the energy from the core of its earthlet. And when they did, still, despite this danger and the constant threat of nuclear annihilation, man has succeeded in capturing energy from light in all its various forms.
Light is neutral. It's all about what we make of it. Light can be used for dark purposes. I remember seeing a film years ago called Superman 4, Quest for Peace, where they used the light to create a sun man, a horrible sun man, a villain made of the sun's rays. This is a terrible villain. These are choices that we make as humans, but the light itself is neutral. It's a neutral tool. It's as neutral as the wind, although the wind's pretty scary.
Now, it's one thing to capture energy, but what's the point in capturing it if you have no way of containing it? Which is to say, how do you keep energy? I'm talking about storing it. What's the point in having a child if you have no home from which to keep it escaping from?
And so, mankind invented one such home that today can be found in everything from living room propellers to home sex machines. It's called the battery, a metal shell containing a tiny lightning generator that stores enough energy to kill a porpoise. But how does a battery work? Each battery is made up of tiny storm-generating components, which, when combined, create an explosive batter, a viscous lightning, hence the name battery. On the side of its metal shell, a positive sign and a negative sign, a humble reminder of both the awesome positive and negative power always looming below light's surface. Once placed into the proper holder, the batter within the battery receives a charge and starts to produce lightning, which in turn gives off energy. Energy that can then power something as essential as a child's semi-automatic water weapon.
Storing energy enables us to use it anytime we want, like a donkey or a prostitute. And our modern world is evidence of mankind having done just that. We use energy today in so many myriad varieties of ways. You could say, energy has powered all of man's greatest hits.
As we look at the world today, it's hard not to be impressed with what we've done as a species, taking the Earth and using its resources to create fantastic feats of energy utilization, from lightning all the way down to potatoes.
Look at her go.
The latest craze, green energy, is an ingenious way to harness the planet's natural energy. And it makes sense because it turns out the Earth contains in its core the very same viscous lightning that we put into batteries. It's a natural form of lightning batter called lava.
The Earth is basically the biggest battery we have. It's constantly expending energy, just doing what it does. So we've discovered that if we simply get in its way when it's trying to do something like blow wind or shine sun, we can basically take that energy for free.
Thanks to impressive new technologies like wind propellers, sun magnets, and river motors, we are finally really starting to take our fragile planet's free energy.
Here's a very effective metaphor. It's like stepping in front of someone who's on their way to the bank and just grabbing their wallet. But let's say it's like an infinitely rich person and they go to the bank every day because they have so much money to deposit. So our planet is like that very rich guy on his way to the bank, and we're stepping in front of it and saying, freeze, you dirty pig, give me your wallet, and if you tell anybody you saw my face, I'm gonna kill you. And then you take the wallet, you just take the cash and then throw it the rest in the gutter.
Today, we are robbing the Earth in smarter and more creative ways, taking the light and energy it has stored for centuries and using it in the blink of an eye.
Fossil fuel, what is it? What is it made of? It's basically rich, dense dinosaur bones converted into liquid dinosaur paste to make oil. And that's how we have electrical cars.
The future is full of possibilities, but will they be light or dark? Perhaps it is not light or energy that contains great positive and negative forces within, but instead, it is man. Maybe it is we who, like the very batteries we have created out of the lightning we have stolen, should be mindful of the positive and negative signs on our own metal shells. Next time on our fascinating planet.
Not only can light give light, but it can also bounce. Let me show you an example. Let's pretend this is the sun and my palm is the earth. You see, it bounces off my hand and gives light all around.